Okay, so on revision day 1, first activity, let me remind you, and if you don't know, let me now tell you the exam structure. So if you have written this exam before, or you have written any of the level 2 exams, applied skills exams, you know the exam is divided into 3 sessions. 100 marks spread across exam sections A, B, and C. Exam section C is the only part of the exam that is human marked. In other words, had it not been for exam section C, our results would have been released the very day we write the exams, because sections A and B are auto-marked. So right after your exams, the system has already captured your mark over 60 for sections A and B. For expert markers to now sit down and mark your section C and add what you get over 40 to the 60 marks to declare your score. And that is when results will come. Exam section C is called constructed response, CR. And in PM, you're going to have these 2 questions, questions 31 and 32. Probably, highly likely, with sub-parts. 20 marks each. Because this is the only part of the exam that is human marked, it is also the only part of the exam where you can get partial marks. So calculate this and that, or prepare this budget and that budget. The final answer is not marked, but what you do to get down to the final answer, that is what is marked. Some of your steps might be right. You score the tick marks. Those that are incorrect, you score nothing. There's no negative marking. Highly likely, calculation marks will be less than narrative marks. PM candidates, most of them ignore the narratives. But the good news is that in PM, majority of the narratives you have to say, you are actually just repeating the examiner's words back to him. So it's not supposed to be difficult, but somehow it is the part that is difficult for PM students. Please don't fall in that trap. I'll be solving one section C question with you this evening, and you realize that apart from the knowledge you have from the classroom, every other thing you are supposed to say, you are just saying the examiner's words back to him from the scenario. So take note of that. When you have calculations to do, and then the next requirement, use the calculations to say something or to do something, please take advantage of own figure rule in marking. Own figure rule is a rule in marking ACCA scripts that says that Mr. Marker, Madam Marker, the candidate got the variance calculation incorrect. Our marking scheme says it's a favorable variance. So we should be saying things in requirement B in line with favorable variance. But the candidate got adverse variance. So the candidate lost the 2 calculation marks. But everything the candidate was saying in the narrative, although it's at variance to what we are saying in the marking scheme, so long as it's in line with the candidate's variance, which was wrong, award full credit where possible to the candidate. But the only candidates who benefit from that are those who showed their calculations, the formula for the wrong calculations up there, for the wrong number up there. So if you don't show the calculations, the principle of marking is wrong and correct is correct. But if you come down to the narratives, you will score 0 for everything you say, because your calculation is wrong, and you are saying everything that is at variance to what the marking scheme says. So take advantage of own figure rule in marking. Whether you are doing calculation in Word or in spreadsheet, show your calculations. Sometimes standalone requirements can be answered first. So prepare this budget, requirement A. By requirement B, tell us about the implications of the budgeting system on the company's performance assessment process, or tell us the implications of the way rewards are given to managers. You realize that sometimes that is a standalone requirement. It's all about, look, in one past exam question, the managers were rewarded based on profits made. What the managers did was that they were always adjusting the budget. Anytime they were not meeting the target, they'll push forward the targets. They'll lower the target now and push it forward to next year, next quarter. When the quarter is ended and they don't achieve it, they push it forward to another quarter. So the reward system was not targeted at long-term performance. So managers were encouraged to focus on short-term performance. So every time they were looking like they were looking good. The implication was in that question was that when they set the targets, because of those high targets, management invested a lot of money in equipment, and this equipment never got to work. So there was huge investment in assets that were not making money. Those were the implications. Sometimes requirements like that, you don't need to say anything about your calculation before you say something. So sometimes standalone questions must be answered first. It's an exam strategy. Learn it. Do not produce generic answers when the requirement is about happenings in a particular company. So say something about performance of a business, of a division, of a company. And what you are saying, for example, advantages of return on investment, residual income, as performance measurement metrics. If you go telling us that, okay, one advantage or one disadvantage of return on investment is that it encourages managers to hold on to old assets. You know, you said that because when the asset is old, the value will be lower. The value will be lower down there means the return on capital employed calculation will be huge. The value is lower also means that depreciation will be lower. So expenses in the profit and loss account will be lower. That is true. But if you don't say that in connection to the fact that it has really happened in the company, what you have just said has scored you 0. How do you fix that and turn a 0 into 1 mark? You fix it by relating it to the scenario and say, for example, in XYZ Limited, this has happened. The manager has intentionally refused to invest in old assets. Invest in new assets. Then that is how you have turned a 0 mark into a 1 mark. PM is marked on the basis of 1 mark per valid point, well explained. Every idea well explained is 1 mark. Each idea well explained is 1 mark. My emphasis is on well explained. You don't get 1 mark for a bullet point. Bullet points don't earn any marks in the exams. Even if it's correct, it's a bullet point. You've not explained it. It earns you 0. So when I'm writing PM, if an idea pops up in my mind, I'll write it as a bullet point. But I'll never, ever leave it as bullet on my answer script. I would go ahead and explain it. Maybe I'll be writing the bullet point because I don't want the idea to fly out of my mind. So I'll write it down. But I will not leave it as a bullet point because bullet points don't earn marks. Bullet point explained, sometimes with example from the scenario, gets you 1 mark. These are the few things I have to say to you about exam section C. When I go to time allotment, I'm going to show you that here. Let me do that at once. Total time on the paper, 3 hours and 15 minutes. Forget about 15 minutes. Make it 3 hours. It's 3 hours. That is 180 minutes for an exam that is 100 marks. Simple math tells you it's 1.8 minutes per mark. So one of the section C questions, which is 20 marks times 1.8, you must answer it in 36 minutes. Sometimes we don't recommend that you start from section C because section C can be overwhelming, and before you know it, and we are going to solve one tonight on variance calculations, and you see how overwhelming it can be. If you don't take care, you fall in love with that variance calculation that, oh, I have mastered variance calculation. Before you know it, you are answering that question in 1 hour. 1 hour is dangerous because I'll be talking to you about section A and B questions where you realize that you need to take time and think and do your calculations. Some of those calculations are going to be very long. So if you leave it to chance because you don't have time, you'll just be scoring 0, 0, 0, 0 throughout. So good time discipline is very, very critical in these exams. How can you achieve that? Well, I think the only way to achieve that is to practice a number of questions within time before the exam. Practice a number of questions on your own. If I solve a section C question with you tonight, if you are not tired tonight, solve it again in 36 minutes before you sleep. After class, if you're exhausted, please go to bed and wake up early. Give yourself 36 minutes and solve that question again. Do that every day from now until revision ends, and from the time revision ends until you write your exams. Please do that. I beg you. Do that. If I solve a question with you tonight, because I'm going to be explaining a lot, we'll be using more than 36 minutes. That's fine. But don't allow 2 days to pass before you try it. Tonight or tomorrow, try it again. But when you are trying it, give yourself 36 minutes. Now, give yourself 36 minutes means that when 36 minutes is up, don't force yourself. Find out where you have gotten to. That's the same attitude you're going to have in the exam. In the exam hall, once 36 minutes is ended, stop it there. Stop it. No matter how exciting that question is, stop it. Please remember this, I'm telling you, it's very important. Stop it. Once 36 minutes is up, stop it. Sometimes it's even advised that cut the 36 minutes to say 34. So you can have some 2 minutes buffer. If you create 2 minutes buffer for question 31, 2 minutes buffer for question 32, that's 4 minutes saved for you in case of any emergency. And on all the objective questions, rather than using 1.8 minutes per mark. So each question, which is 2 marks, 3.6 minutes, maybe cut it short to 3 minutes. All those 0.6 minutes you save on every question, build them up. In the end, getting to the end of the exam, when the guys are reminding you 30 minutes more, you comfortably have a build-up of 0.6 minutes per question, a build-up of 0.6 minutes per question. Friends, don't worry, we'll be solving questions. I'm talking to our exam strategy. It's as important as trying to solve questions. You're going to have 0.6 minutes per question for 15 questions in session A. So 9 minutes saved times 2. So for another 15 questions in session B, 18 minutes saved, plus 2 minutes on question 31, plus 2 minutes on question 32. If you have this attitude, you are going to have 22 minutes saved. And in this 22 minutes saved, you can actually go up and tidy up some of the answers. You can actually, question 31, question 32, that is something you can do well, but you cut it short. You can actually now go back there and do some work. Friends, the exam is not all about knowledge. It's even about how you can discipline yourself in the workplace and work according to time and meet tight deadlines in the accounts office. It's all part of the training. So it's not all about the content of the syllabus alone. In my teaching experience, from my teaching experience, I've met students who are very good in class, but they never made a pass mark. They get surprised. Myself, I get surprised sometimes. Sometimes I don't get surprised. So please, very important, good time management is critical for these exams. Talking about exam session C, syllabus session B, which has got 5 specialist cost accounting systems: activity-based costing, life cycle costing, target costing, throughput accounting, environmental management accounting, will not be tested in exam session C. You will not see any of these questions in exam session C. Don't mix up activity-based costing with activity-based budgeting. You can see activity-based budgeting in exam session C, but you cannot see activity-based costing in exam session C. So the two are not the same. So activity-based costing will never be tested in exam session C, but activity-based budgeting, which is not part of this part of the syllabus, can be tested in exam session C. All right. Any questions about exam session C? In the next 7 or so minutes, let me finish wrapping up this thing about exam structure and exam strategy, which I always talk about on my revision courses day 1. Any questions about session C, please? All right. Exam session A and B, they are objective tests. Friends, objective test doesn't mean multiple choice. In our part of the world, when our tutors tested us in quizzes in uni and in basic school, everywhere, our quizzes, objective tests are only, most of the time, are only multiple choice. What is multiple choice? A, B, C, D. Only one is correct. If you go and meet A, B, C, D, which 2 of the following, and you don't read well, and you just select A, well, A might be one of the answers, but because you didn't select a second one, or because you went too far ahead and selected 3, no matter how well you have done there, you've just scored a 0 for 2 marks that could potentially have been earned. So that's what we call multiple response. Statements 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Select 4 of them that are true about activity-based budgeting. Don't select anything less than 4 or more than 4. Select 4. It's called multiple response. Fill in the blank. This one, I tell people, even if you pray very hard, or you involve yourself in witchery or anything, nothing can save you. Fill in, you can't leave it to chance. You have to do the calculation and fill it in. The computer marks this part of the exams. The computer is not intelligent to know that this is what you intended. Okay, so calculate the cost per unit and the activity-based costing. Your calculator correctly gave you 205.60. That answer is correct, but the requirement is fill in the blank to the nearest dollar. So 205.6 to the nearest dollar is 206. If you type in the correct answer, 205.6, the computer is not a human being. The computer is not intelligent to know that this is what you meant. So you just scored 0 for something well done before. Watch out for filling the blanks and their instructions. Drop down. Well, the answer you can see down in a computer-based exam, you need to click the button to drop down there, to pull down the answers for you, to select the multiple choice or multiple response from. Hotspot. I did a video the last time. I taught somebody and I shared the question on decision trees with you. Hotspot kind of question, watch that decision tree video and see an example of it. Hot area. People say true or false questions. That is nothing. We can answer it. Well, it's true or false, but it's correct or incorrect, but it's about statements 1, 2, 3, 4. You've got to click the true or false or correct or incorrect correctly at all those all those areas for you to get a 2. One of them wrong, you scored a 0. It's called hot area. Drag and drop. You've got to pick something from one place, a token, and put it in another space using the computer cursor. All right, 7 types of objective test questions. If you want to familiarize yourself with this, go to the CBE practice platform, select the specimen exam, or select one of the practice exams. Please, the past exams, they don't publish session A and B. ACCA doesn't publish sessions A and B for the past exams. The past exams, they publish only section C, question 31, question 32. But practice exams, specimen exam, go into one of them and look at the range of question types between sections A and B of the exams. 7 types of objective test questions. For PM in particular, please, if you forget everything, remember this one I'm saying to you. Don't start your exam from exam session B. Don't. When I saw some exam session B questions with you, you realize that they can be very overwhelming and time wasting. So one story, one scenario, or one case on throughput accounting. Based on that one scenario, there are 5 objective test questions. Sometimes these questions are very overwhelming. They demand a lot of your time. Don't start exam from there. No, it's wrong. What happens is that you always spend too much time there, and before you realize you don't have time for sessions A and C. The advice is that normally start your exams with session A. Go through session A quickly. Out of those 15 questions, let's hope and pray with your hard work that some 8 to 10, you have some idea and can work through quickly. So go through all of those. Then from there, jump to section C. One of those 2 questions, hopefully, at least one of them is good for you. Try that. Maybe if the second one is also good, try it first before you go to section B. If the second one doesn't look too good, go to section B, 3 scenarios, 5 questions each. Spot 1 or 2 of them that are on topics that are familiar to you and do them before you go back to section A and try to finish up things there. Friends, don't start your exam from exam session B. Most of the time, section B wastes your time too much. So you end up not having time for sessions A and C. And then you realize that, this is becoming too much for you in the exam to take. Friends, activity 1 for the night, an overview of the PM exam, the exam structure, and exam strategy. We'll be reminding ourselves about these exam strategies throughout the revision course. And you should also be reminding yourself about them as you solve questions. These questions I give you here, please, to do before meeting. They are all chapter, Study Hub chapter quizzes. When I say to you chapter 9, 10, those are the quizzes. But you can also go and do the standard quizzes, which are in the revision questions. Do them also in addition to this. I don't believe that after doing all this hard work, you struggle to score 50%. I don't believe that. I don't believe that after doing all of this, you struggle to score 50%. Minimum, you should score 50, 51 and walk away. Any questions, guys? Okay. I've been selfish. I've been the only guy talking throughout. I hope that when we come back, I'll not be the only guy talking. You guys will be contributing. Okay. This session is ended. Let me end the recording at this point, and then we will check out, come back, and then start practicing real exam questions, starting from the pre-September 2023 mock exam, session B question on budgeting.